if you're comparing yourself into the future all the time, you put yourself in a gap. Oh, I haven't got, or I have not got this. And a lot of guys don't want to look back at their progress because they think, if I celebrate myself for my success, I'm going to get comfortable. I'm going to get satisfied. The opposite happens. When you celebrate yourself for your success, you literally say goodbye to an old version of yourself and you say hello now to a new upgraded version of yourself.
Yeah, makes sense.
Acknowledge, one, be like, wow, I did awesome with that. Hell yes. This is really good. Cool. I'm at peace with this goal that I've done. Great. I'm going to enjoy a weekend, just a weekend, right? A weekend, 3 days. I'm going to celebrate. The only time I'm going to drink is when I hit my milestone. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing better than, it's like going to war. When all the guys would go to war and they'd go to the castle and everyone would, people would die around it, but they were the survivors and they'd take over and they got the new land. Let's celebrate. And bring that back. You know what I mean? Do it in your team. Do it for yourself. Do it with your family.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the High Performance Management Podcast, episode 21. So I'm here with another Corey Boutwell, leader for Set the Standard, owner of personal group for men, setting the standard for a new wave of men to start dominating the world, which we need right now. Thanks so much for coming on, man. It's going to be a real interesting conversation about what is a good man, what are the vices holding men back, what are some of the goals that men can have to improve themselves, plus more. So I've got a lot of questions here about deep psychology, which I know you love and read, around Nietzsche and things like that, and Jung. So I'm keen to get into it. But thanks so much for coming on. How's things?
Oh, bro, thank you for having me. I'm pumped to be here. It's cool. I'm in Corey's in the development. Well,
yeah.
Might that one coming to have an awesome chat. See where we go.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll get straight into it because I know you've had a bit of a interesting career from corporate world to, working with your dad and bodybuilding to then, making the bridge from working a 9 to 5 to starting a company is quite a big step. So let's start there. Look, I know the whole basis of what you're doing. I could be wrong, by the way, but the basis of your Set the Standard was because you came from, a lot of pain points and not being the best version of yourself to then overcoming certain obstacles and improving yourself. Take us back to before you are who you are now. What was the few key moments where you're like, fuck, something needs to change? Yeah. And if it doesn't, my life is ruined.
Well, essentially, I got brought up to be a superstar through singing, dancing, and acting. So it was a lot of, you're going to make it, you're going to be famous, you're going to be in movies and all this stuff. And I was in extra movies. I met Daniel Radcliffe when I was younger. I got lead roles in theatre productions. I got lead roles in some TV show pilots and all these different things. So the future looked great. And what I thought didn't affect me as much, but it did, was my parents splitting up when I was about 15. And that was an age where school was coming to an end. Alcohol and partying started to come into it. And I didn't realize during the time of singing, dancing, and acting that I was really scared of all of the girls, because obviously that's an industry that's dominated more by girls. So lucky me at that age, I got up to some mischief for sure. But I really cared about what they thought. And that come from, I cared about what my mum thought of me when I was growing up in terms of my singing and my acting and how well I was doing in my career. And then what happened was, I remember I started freezing up and freaking out when when I'd be speaking in front of people, or I would be acting or dancing, something like that. I'd freak out a little bit. And then that translated to, in the real world, when I would go out partying with friends, I'd get nervous when I go to parties and when I go to talk to people. I'd get nervous talking about myself. I started working for my dad, and that stripped all of my value away because he had massive expectations for me and I wasn't living up to them in terms of, work real hard, be a man, don't talk about your feelings. He was such a people pleaser at that time and was really aggressive in his approach, and it just didn't work out between us at all. Now we're like best friends, and I actually, if I went back to Adelaide and worked with my dad for a couple of days, I'd have the best time ever. Like we would have so much fun together, because I did for a while when I started working in corporate years later. But anyway, it was rotten. We were arguing, yelling at each other. Dad was crying in front of me, telling me he wants to kill himself. I was at a part where I was feeling that way as well. Some of my friends had committed suicide. So it was full on, and it was a real dark place. And during that period, I got hooked on and attached my worth to a girl, and she cheated on me like 10 times and would come home from town every single weekend. I kissed 5 guys tonight. And I was like, why is this girl rubbing all this shit in my face? And then I just kept going back. I did not think for a second that I could get anyone else other than her during that period of time. So the whole coming out of that was extremely difficult. And I was in my early 20s. Then I got another partner. I attached myself, broke up with me. Like, we had like the best relationship for like 10 months, had another partner, and then like she dumped my ass. And I was like, whoa. And then in the meantime, I was getting cheated on. Then like for me, and dropped my worth, and I felt like I wasn't worth anything. And the only thing that it helped me out was competing in bodybuilding shows, because I got back on stage again. So if like this 10-year, like what was it, like 6-year period, not getting in stage, I ended up working in a surf store, and the culture was so toxic. And then I was studying at uni, and I was learning all of these concepts. And I started studying self-help like a couple of years at like 21, just like on and off and on and off. And I was like, this is very interesting. And I like the power that you feel from it, like the confidence. It's like a power of self-awareness. Went to uni, studied, and I graduated with honors in business management. So like I crushed it, got a Cert 4 in project management, got a job in corporate, and I started winning awards there. And through that time, I kept competing in bodybuilding competitions. And that was sort of the thing that saved me. And I was like, man, I'm going to go and do the big leagues. I know a lot of bodybuilders and a lot of competitors will just stick to the small leagues. And I'm like, I'm going to go up to the big league. I'm going to compete in WBFF. Now it's FMG. And I was like, I'm going to go compete in this one, like actually try to get a pro card. Because that was like the biggest show in Australia. Because if you were competing in IFBB, you got to qualify for the Olympia. And that's just such a long time to get there. And I put not just a plan, I studied my absolute hardest. Like when I finished uni, I didn't stop studying. I just kept on studying because I learned the skills and applied them. So I was studying as best as possible, like as hard as I could. I was learning about my mindset that I could be as disciplined as possible. I was stretching myself to be as confident as I could, and I crushed it. And that event of getting a pro card felt so significant to me. I was meditating. I was unstoppable in terms of my routine was so locked in. I was creating websites. I was creating podcasts. I was doing everything. And one ceremony for me of winning a pro card was like the initiation that I needed as a man to prove to myself, hey, bro, you've got what it takes. It doesn't have to be a bodybuilding competition for someone else. It's anything that they set their mind to and say that they're going to finish that stretches their comfort zone. And when they do that and they prove that, like, wow, what else can I do for the best version of myself? Because I don't agree that every single person has the skills and the qualities to be like $100 million entrepreneur. Not everyone has that. Right. Whatever the best version of themselves are, they know what that is if they are following their heart and their passion for what excites them and scares them. That helps them bring out their full potential. And I did that. And once I did that, I didn't stop. It hasn't turned off since. Not once, like at all. I have been, my routine for the last 6 years hasn't changed. All I have done is just build and create and learn and execute and have fun doing it. Yes, there's been moments that's stressful. Yes, I've cried. Yes, I've released stuff and I do a lot of trauma release and all the rest of it. Learn all these skills to help men just extract demons out of themselves. And yeah, I've worked with, I would say, close to 20 millionaires now, 20, 30 millionaires. We've worked with close to 300 men in the community in general. And I only started it 3 years ago. So it's like 100 men a year, roughly, that we've been working with. We've sold out both of our retreats. And I've toured Australia teaching workshops. And it's been crazy. And my network is just like, my friends are just incredible. And the network was absolutely fantastic. And the reason that I say that is because they're all things that I wanted. All of these things I'm living now, I wanted 5 years ago. And it's not necessarily I did what it took to get there, because anyone can do what it takes to get there. But I knew that it was right. And even when adversity came up, I overcame with consistency, discipline, and being aware of stagnation. And at every hurdle, I'd invest in myself or do something so that I could break that cycle, get to the next. So it was like a long chunk of that.
That makes sense, especially from, using that bodybuilding show as the framework of stretching yourself, but having a goal and doing it even though you didn't think you could, and then replicating that to now set the standard and beyond. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. And so I think there's a few things I wanted to touch on there. I've got a few questions anyway, but what's come to me now, when you say extract the demons, now I believe, and it could be wrong, I'm open to it, that to have like a point of perception is comparison. And so I think first understanding the demons is important. Do you think extracting the demons is necessarily bad? Or maybe what is your explanation of a demon?
Okay, yeah, I really like this. So I like how Jordan Peterson put it, because he uses Carl Jung's references. We're getting into some deep psychology, sort of now, guys. If you're speaking a bit of lingo, too bad, keep up. I like the terminology is possession. And essentially, through the use of archetypes, when I was learning this, I just got fascinated by the archetypes in our psychology and how our unconscious works, and how earlier on, when I was being cheated on and my parents were being split up, and I'd go out and actually I was driving to town at 4 a.m. and just going over my boundaries when I should have been sleeping and I should have been training, to go pick a girl up from town after she kissed like 5 guys, to then go and sleep with her to get my fix of validation, right? At that time, was I conscious? No, absolutely not. I wasn't conscious. That was some archetype in me that got in control of my actions. Same way, you ever found yourself hungry and then the next minute you've just opened the fridge and you're like, what the hell am I doing in the fridge? Yeah. Was that you that controlled you there? Or was that an impulse and an instinct that put you there?
Oh, unless you look at it.
Yeah, right? Well, listen, urge, an impulse or instinct, some sort of behavior. That you're like, what the hell am I doing here? Yeah. It's the same thing. Eddie, you know that you've been possessed anytime you think, what the hell was I doing? And whenever I think about that, I think, what the hell was I doing at that time, at that period? Holy. So that is what meant by demons. So when you're possessed, like in terms of angels and demons and the old school stories, I like to reference them as to now as being that, like, as in they're real, but they're not what they think we are. They're not mythical creatures. They're just parts of our psyche that we haven't paid attention to, that we're not aware of. And they get control of what we do. Right? They get in control of our behaviors and our actions. And when we take the unconscious seriously and we become aware of our unconscious, that is when we can start to make big change, not little change. Like we had a guy who come work with us last year. He went from $20K a month to $200,000 a month every single month. And it just come from some mindset work.
That's insane.
Insane. And it come from mindset work because he was holding on to these limitations and beliefs out of fear that come up from his unconscious. We removed those. He made some decisions in his business that he knew he needed to do, but he was a little bit fearful of. His threshold for fear increased. His threshold to receive income in his business increased. Really interesting, right? And that was his intention. So obviously it depends on what your intention is. But it's really fascinating how it works. So that's what I mean by demons. And there's negative ones and there's positive ones. But what's really interesting, or what I find completely fascinating, like running retreats and doing like some hardcore stuff, is that the demons, and this is taught by Robert Moore, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, he talks about this in some of his other studies, is every archetype that you allow yourself to become possessed by wants to become the boss. Right? Wants to become the boss. And you can tell this by, when you fall in love and you have that feeling and you just get infatuated by that person.
Yeah. 100%.
The only one that means anything, it just feels good, and all you want to do is just love them and just not non-stop. That's it. That's the only thing you can think about all day. So the lover archetype has now become the boss. It has taken over. It wants to be the boss. And then what happens is you get a boundary crossed, or you get frustrated, or you get triggered, and then you sweep it all under the rug because the lava's like, no, don't worry about this. Just let me be here. Let me be the boss. Let me have all the attention. Sweep all that shit under the rug. The next minute you blow up. Uh-oh, spaghetti-o. The lava has been tried to, attach because of maybe it's been attaching yourself to the relationship because of some patterns that have been programmed in your brain or your unconscious, right? Interesting. And for to get rid of your demons is an integration process. But to first allow the integration process to happen, you have to witness them and they have to be seen. They don't want to be seen. They try to hide. And that is why it takes some serious embodiment practices, which can be yelling, it can be screaming, it can be breath work, it can be, throwing some stuff, it can be doing something in public with other people, it can be standing in a circle of people and you're the person in the middle and you got to say some shit that you've never said beforehand. All of these different things, because you can think about it, you can write it, you can journal it, and it may help. But especially for men, we're physical beings, right? We like to train hard, eat, run, fuck, like it's all part of our nature. And then we think that we can just think our way out of stuff or ignore it. We can't, which is why bringing some sacredness back to the work is so powerful. When we do the work, it grounds us back into entrepreneurship, being a great partner, being disciplined where we want to be disciplined. And that's it.
No, it's cool. No, you answered it because I guess when you said demon, my understanding of demon was kind of like how Tim Grover refers to the dark side and how it's almost necessary, and that's that type of integration where you know that's like it's part of you, but you use that as like a propulsion method. That's kind of where I was coming from, but yeah, that makes sense as well in terms of like demon, as in you've got these parts that are maybe disowned that are running unconscious patterns. Yeah, that's cool. I guess this leads on one of my questions I wrote before this. Right, how has your understanding of Jungian archetypes shaped your perception of yourself in the world?
Oh, love that. Firstly, I want to touch on it's interesting. His perception, from what I've heard you say, then would be utilizing your ego. There's a really good quote, and it's the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. You never know what is enough until you know what is more than enough. So if everyone listening, if they feel guilty for pushing the limits or being too big or screaming too hard or charging too much or, working too much, I say find your limit.
Yeah.
Like find it, use that ego. Same thing as like Tim Grover is like using it, find the limit and then adjust. Because you never know like how much you got in the tank, which I just want to leave that one there. So how has like Jungian archetypes helped me and my self-growth? Really interesting. So it also depends because there's so many like different people's approaches to Jungian archetype.
Yeah.
I love Carol Pearson's. I've interviewed her before. They're fantastic. She's got the book, The 5 Archetypes. They're great. Like Robert Moore's, he works with the masculine archetypes, which is just King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Those are fantastic. I really like Robert Bly's archetypes because they derive all of theirs from Jungian work. He has got little extra ones in there like the Wild Man and the Grief Man, and I absolutely love those as well. But one thing that all of the archetypes have in common, and I believe that this is so powerful for the modern man. Like, I think this is like a huge link here, and everyone tries to hide away from it. And the real G's, like the real modern G's, are the ones that, fight this one thing or integrate it. And it's the word is shame. What's wrong with me? And we're living in an era of social media and entrepreneurship. And there's all this digital real estate for people to claim in niches. And if you don't claim, you're going to be a worker. It depends if you want to be a leader or a worker, but there's out there people stamping it, and it gets stamped with logos, it gets stamped with titles, it gets stamped with what you talk about, it gets stamped with your name, it gets stamped with your profile, whatever Google says you are. I believe that's like the real estate that they have now. Interesting, okay? So just setting the scene. And that just means everyone's being seen everywhere, okay? And in a lot of modern entrepreneurship, the modern day thing to have, which is in my world that I see, is personal brand, okay? Becoming a key person of influence. I love it. I think it's great. However, how many people want to be seen on camera? How many people actually want to talk about their stuff and get vulnerable on camera and talk about something? Very little, right? How many people want to like actually do like public speak? People are like, hell no, I just get like so scared of that. It's the ones who do all the personal development work and the mindset work love it because that's where they get a kick. They're like, oh, I get this, right? Get this kick. But it's also not just that. It's, you know, even if you're a tradie, it's, well, especially if you're a tradie, it's leading a team. It's having open, vulnerable conversations with your staff, especially if you want to like live a rich life. You want to be rich, you want to have time to get to the gym, you know, someone else to do all your coding. Like, holy hell, there's just like a lot of work to do for tradies out there. And your goal through leadership is by learning all these things about yourself. And learning the thing mainly about yourself that people don't want to show out there is shame. And shame's crazy. There's a control phase of shame and there's a release phase of shame. Essentially, we can spend all our lives controlling, which is how much money that we save, what food that we eat. It's how promiscuous that we are. It's our routine. It's cleaning. And we'll just do all these things to try to control things back in our life. And if you think about someone who's saving, right? Where do most people, if they're controlling their whole life, just save? Where do they spend their money?
Probably food or bills.
Food, bills. What else? If they're
feeling good,
like, oh, I need to let
feeling
this
good.
go. What
Yeah, drinking.
Yeah, right.
Cheap novelty items.
Yeah. Another terminology for that, Corey. Are you ready for that? Ready for what it is?
Yeah, go.
Holidays, where you can drink whatever you want to drink and spend all money on drinks. You can spend all the money on food. You can spend all the money on the novelties. It doesn't matter. And then you get back from your holiday and guess what's gone? All your money. Hello there. You're in a control and release cycle of shame. Same thing with business. I'm controlling everything. My business. I got to take a weekend off with the family. I got to drink. I got to do this. I got to do something else. I got to. Next minute, bang! They've gone fucked a prostitute.
Yeah.
Just to bring it back to something serious because it happens, right? Or the temptation's there, or something like that has happened because of, and now it's all the guilt and the shame in the world. Or they've done drugs, or something else has happened in terms of like a release phase, you know. Or they've gone and gambled their money, they've spent all of it, right? So the release phase is obviously when you're susceptible to vices or temptations, which is very interesting. This number one thing, shame, that we try to hide from because talking about it already is like, ugh, you know what I mean? Because it's like this gross kind of feeling you have because being seen is scary because if you're isolated or outside the group, that means that you're going to die. That's programmed into our DNA from a long period of time. And yeah, how it's personally influenced my life is just I'm so transparent with my shame. And I work hard to own it, especially when it's scared. And after studying the hero's journey and knowing what that looks like, because all of Jungian psychology is all based off the hero's journey, which is crazy. Like in Joseph Campbell's, where it's like the interlinks are just absolutely insane. Especially reading Robert Bly and some other people are just finding all these connections. I'm like, whoa. And the thing that helps people, like a hero's journey, essentially for everyone who's listening, if they don't know what it is, it's an old school story told in every single religion. It's what the Bible's based off of, what's the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it's what Greek myths book based off, what Star Wars based off of, what's Dune, the movie Dune's based off, Avatar's based off it. Like everyone just follows these certain steps. We can apply it to our own life, and it's a great model for prediction. If you're stuck or lost, what do I need to do next? Okay. And most of the time to get from one phase to the next is, for a lot of them, is facing a piece of shame in an initiation ceremony to feel welcomed with either who you are as yourself or into a tribe of people, whether that be your team, someone else's team, or a new industry or something like that. At each phase is like, I'm scared to do this, face it, overcome it, get aware of it, learn the skills, the mindset, the communication, whatever it is, the emotional intelligence. Hey, you've made a big shift, which is cool. My life, I'm just getting back to asking a question. Sorry, I had to stop.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I'm loving it. Go, keep going.
So much educate. So how it's worked in my life is it's helped me really quantum leap stuff. So for me, there's like knowing that there's shame and being seen was starting a podcast. I was like, I'm just going to say everything. I have a rule to myself: no secrets on a podcast. So scary. That's like a rule I just decided not going back on it. And another one was moving states. I was like, I need to get out because I'm ready for an apotheosis. And like I'm going to feel a lot of shame and grief moving away from my friends and my family. However, getting invited to like 100 weddings on the weekends and family events and stuff on the weekends and feeling so obliged to go out of my heart, like I need to separate myself from that. So I can work myself, and at some point I'll reintegrate. But I really want to be selfish here for me. That was a huge deal. Same thing with starting the business, hiring my employees, asking for money was huge. And then also money mindset, starting to integrate and not getting freaked out and triggered about money, being able to look at your bank accounts as a business owner, being able to understand how money influences your personal relationship with your partner and how you compare yourself to other people and how they hold you back. And then shame around certain things around that when they come up. And talking about them, letting it out, doing the work, journaling, studying, keeping consistent with your most priority tasks. That's how it's influenced me and helped me keep consistent. Yeah.
No, that's good. I think it sounds like you use a lot more Jungian archetypal things. I think I come from a lot of DeMartini understanding. So like, I think, like, I personally haven't really looked too much into the whole Jungian stuff. I've read a little bit about it, but my understanding of like an archetype, if I was to break it down into like a psychological point of view, would that then be like an archetype? Is that like a collection of behaviors and traits?
Yes. So you can say that an archetype is almost like a personality type.
Yeah.
So, for example, it's really interesting. Archetypes come from Greek myth, and there was a word. There's a really cool word. Enthusiasm means enthusiast, right? And it actually back in the day means possessed by a god, which is really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, in like in the Latin or the Greek terms or whatever it is. And what would happen is if you saw someone on the battlefield and they're coming out with an axe, no, they're just like killing everyone in a wartime. They're like, he's possessed by Ares. He's possessed by Ares. You know, that would be an archetype of the warrior coming out there and crushing, and like you're summoning that. You get that on a rugby field, right? You get an office worker out on a rugby field and you try to get one of them as aggressive as a professional rugby player. It's not going to happen, right? They're not going to have that leadership. They're not going to have that warrior. Archetype is developed as a professional rugby player, right? An office worker won't. But if you wanted someone who's making really clear, calm, like calculated decisions, who can create plans and spreadsheets, you wouldn't get a rugby player to go and do that. Their ability for that is very low. So someone who is in an office, their archetype that they have honed in terms of a skill and their thinking would be magician. Harold Pearson has been involved in some studies, which is on my podcast, just talking something around this, where they've done brain scans on people when they're in a certain archetype, and a certain brain pattern plays in someone's mind when they're using or in a certain archetype, which I find just absolutely fascinating.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
But the main thing is that like most times with archetypes, we're unconscious when they're happening. So I would probably say like right now, I would be in a king archetype, and my brain have been like, oh, I'm on camera, I'm on stage. I need to speak in a way that's clear and people can understand me and try to tell good stories in my speaking. And the person who does that would be like the king, the ruler, or whatever. So, and there's heaps of different archetypes and how they're used, and people have different variations of them. I'm just those ones for now. But they did link archetypes to the personality types, like ENTFP, ENTJ, like all of those. They're very closely linked to archetypes, but they've given them letters and broken down the systems, because there's a lot of people in offices, or I would find in corporate, that if they started hearing some mythological what are you talking about? Like, get out your head, man. Like,
I see. I understand. Yeah, it's like a modern adaptation, almost.
Yeah, it really is.
And so, I guess I'm just thinking now, then, because my background's NLP. Is an archetype not just a state? Then a collection of behaviors that induces a state, which will get certain results.
Yeah. So it depends, because in NLP, what I know of, because I haven't studied much NLP myself. I'm not like the most proficient at NLP. But what I know for sure is like, obviously like doing Tony Robbins or stuff, and he's been like, NLP beginning person is that most of the time the state that I'm aware of is like getting into like an immovable, like it's like in state. I think that necessarily may not be an archetype from what I know, because it is summoning a certain energy for like a really big, from what I've seen on some of Tony Robbins, right? So you can correct me in a minute, of like a massive hype.
Yeah.
Most of the time, archetypes are unconscious.
Okay.
You can be consciously aware of them, but they're behaviors and patterns that you're not as much in control of. When it's like, I need to get in state. So getting in state, keeping in state, and staying in state may be one archetype, depending on the state that you're in, and it might be the archetype that helps you to get there. However, majority of the time, it's unconscious.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So it's almost like an organization. I can see how Jung would have broken that down back in the day. Yeah. He's just like gone through and being like, oh yeah, archetypes, like that's a way to bridge the gap through like a metaphor almost that allows you to shine light on those unconscious patterns.
Yeah. But what I know for sure is you said metaphors through symbols.
Yeah.
Right, so it's really interesting. You can tell what archetypes you're possessed by your dreams. And in the book, Man and His Symbols, he goes on a lot of dream analysis, and I find that quite fascinating going into the book. So just related dreams to basically heroes' journeys and unconscious stories. And it's pretty funny, as after reading that book, I can do some really hardcore dream analysis, but it's not like my most favorite thing to do. Like it is fascinating, but I'm not like, I don't love doing dream analysis on people. But what's fascinating is just basically every dream that you have, if you look at a bear chasing you, it's a symbol for something. If you're having sex with someone who really strains in your dream, it's a symbol for something. And there are all these different symbols you can see that play along with your archetypes, and it's like your unconscious is trying to speak to you. Then you have to tell through the pictures and the things what your unconscious is saying, because it speaks through images, which is why when we watch movies, and sometimes you watch a movie and it's like, oh, that hits my soul, or like a story that just hits you. Like that's your unconscious sort of speaking, like, oh, I relate to this so much. So when we can relate to our dreams really well, that gives us like a nudge or a push to some decisions that we need to make in our lives. So it was really interesting. I last night in my dreams was people were chasing me, trying to murder me, but I'm pretty sure I killed all of them.
Yes, that warrior. No, that's cool. I like that. No, this is all new to me. That's why I was really looking forward to the conversation, because I think I come from, like my background's sales. And so NLP was almost like the same, because I'm taking out like language, and behind your language is, deep patterns from your past and beliefs and values. And so this is interesting to hear how you can kind of organize that into a way that is more easy to understand. It is interesting. Whether it's correct or not, I don't know. That's the ongoing process of it, isn't it? Just keep learning, adapting.
Well, the thing is with that is it's like, well, are you getting results? Like, yes or no? So
exactly.
If you're getting results and it's working, and I think for us it's really interesting because some of this stuff is like hardcore, and people, they're like, what psychology degree and stuff do you have? I'm like, I honestly don't know where to go like Jungian stuff. I looked at some things, and I'm gonna like get some coaches like later on, but you can learn all of it in a book. And I'm full-time studying like at university, and my clients and the people that come in get intense results. So not working.
100%. I want to go down to more, obviously we can talk about business results, but then I also understand through a lot of people in my network, you can have great business results, but not necessarily feel fulfilled. Okay. So I'd love to hear your understanding and what you employ with the guys you work with around, what does it mean to feel fulfillment, and what is it that we can do to maybe feel that? Because a lot of guys, I don't feel purpose, I don't feel fulfilled. Well, let's dive into that.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of men's mental health, and that's like one of the reasons I'm alive, to be honest. You are too. Like we both are. So I would categorize this. Most men over 40 are yearning to feel more fulfilled. Men who are over 40, entrepreneurs, they're not interested in money as much anymore. They're like, okay, How can I have the best relationship with my partner, my family, be present, have time, open my heart and feel some fucking love? You know what I mean? That's a lot where like they're at. Most of the guys that I help with over 40 is that, and sex, which is really interesting because it's all like psychological. So whatever addiction you have, where it's sex, drugs, alcohol, business, work, all similar, same stuff, rewire the beliefs. Next minute, someone's like, "Oh man, I'm having sex for like 2 hours. What the hell?" And I still last like 5 minutes. It's correct.
Yeah, right. That's weird. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So most men over 40, that's like where they're at, and they really want to have, because they either have second doubts, and it's like, hey, it's time to commit, and it's time to get mature. Most men from the age of, I would say, in their 30s are trying to scale their career, and if they haven't, they're extremely depressed.
Mm-hmm.
They're not depression. Go see a psychologist level. There's not like there's something wrong with them. There's no shame there. The thing that they have is there's just their life isn't that good. Just like what Jordan Peterson says. It's not, they're not satisfied with where their life is at, and they're starting to panic if they haven't. If they have done well, then they're having growing pains, and they're not getting clear on like, okay, where do I want to take this? Sometimes people start a business and they're like, this isn't a business that I actually wanted to start. Shit. You know what I mean? It's like, and I like Gary Vee's approach on this. He's like, hey, you're still so young. You know what I mean? Men don't peak until they're in their like 50s. It's literally like, we don't peak until 50s. Like there was a study done of women looking at like men that they're most attractive. And it was like women up to the age of, I think it was 22 or 23 or 24, something like that, all said that roughly people around their age was the sexiest that they found. Anyone from like 24 over, it was all average. After like hundreds of people was men in their 50s.
Yeah, right.
Crazy, right? So on average, like after that age group, which I find absolutely fascinating. So we got time.
Interesting.
We got time, guys. Any men earlier there, so basically if they're in their 20s to 30s, it's hustle time. They're either hustling or they're partying and getting distracted. So, and what's really cool now is noticing that a lot of younger guys who are coming to join our community, they're like, I'm starting online businesses, I'm starting podcasts, I'm getting into sales. I really want to help people. And I'm hustling on that. They're doing some great things, which is absolutely fantastic. And anyone younger than that, they're still trying to figure out what the hell to do. And if the guys in their 20s, if they haven't figured out what they want to do, they also start to panic, because as soon as they get over 25, 26, it's the same thing as the guys in their 30s. They're like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah. And I'm kind of feeling that. I'm 26, so I'm going...
Starting to get there, yeah.
I understand it.
Yeah. And it's like, what path do I go down? What do I learn? What skill do I have? And it's like a freak out. But hey, you're working for yourself, you're doing the thing, and it's an extremely rewarding job. And if you like it, then go hard, especially if it serves you and you love it, and if it serves your lifestyle as well.
Mm.
So that's sort of like ranking people of like, okay, where are you at roughly? And the guys in their early 20s aren't necessarily worried about fulfillment, but they are worried about satisfaction. People in their mid 20s and above are like, well, I got to, at some point are like, well, I got to start working on something to start to find fulfillment. In their 30s, they're desperate for it if they're not doing the right thing, or they don't know how to feel it. And then in the 40s, if they haven't done any work, so like granted, they've done maybe a little bit, not too much, by the time they get to their 40s, if they haven't gone deep, then it's like with some big demons to extract there, because it's been cemented for a long period of time. And yeah, I'd say there's two parts to feeling fulfilled. One is letting go of all the shit that you've built up, because you're never going to feel fulfilled. That's that shame stuff that I was talking beforehand. If you don't let that go, how are you going to feel fulfilled? Like there's anchors weighing you down. And that's what makes you feel numb. When you go to say things, you get stuck in your throat. When you want to avoid shit, and eventually you blow up at someone. Shame, right? That's going to prevent you from getting there. The second thing is being able to 100%, I'll say three things, right? Able to 100% commit for a long period of time. Not a 1 year goal, not a 2 year goal. We're talking 10-year goals. Let's make it happen. Age-old quote, cliche, you underestimate 10 years and overestimate in 1 year, right? But I believe it. I think it's very true. And then the third one, believe it or not, and this is like, it's really interesting. There's actually a study that I've got a book in front of me around this, is where men find most fulfillment is intimacy. Intimacy. It's such a big thing that is missing. Intimacy could be looking your brother in the eyes, right? Forehead together, breath in.
Yeah.
Bro, I fucking love you. Like, you mean the world to me. And for the moments that we're connected, like, let's go. Let's like make some shit happen. You know what I mean? You and me, we've got each other's backs. We're holding each other accountable, lifting each other up, never bringing each other down. Let's go, right? True intimacy, right? Even with a brother, it can be with your children. Like, you are able to actually listen to them and be present and not be that, you know, arrogant person who has to put on a front to your kids to be like, no, I want my kids to be half and learn all these things. Who cares what they are like going to learn? They're going to learn it anyway. Your role is in the books as a dad is to simply love and validate your children. And they are only going to do what you're going to do, never what you say. So set a high standard with what you do and be completely transparent with your children. They adopt that as well, and they'll crush it. And instead of telling them off or being like nasty to them or like shaming them in some way, like, oh, don't do that. Why'd you do that? Hold them accountable. It's a different language. Hey, holding you accountable. You said you're going to do this. I'd love to see it. They go, ooh, hey, it's part of your role in the family dynamic. This is the bar that you're operating at. You dip down a little bit. Do you need some support? Do we need to chat about? You know what I mean? It's a little bit different than why the hell
it is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Accountability. That's going to bring fulfillment. Same thing with their partner, their wife, or for some people, husband as well, is being able to receive all their love, receive it, and go receive all of their frustration, take it in, and be able to hold all of it. And what I mean by hold all of it is not getting reactive at what it is. And then when you do decide to be reactive, is I would say be reactive with passion and safety, so that gives your partner the chance to hold you. Because sometimes you can let your partner blow up and try to hold space for them all the time and be like, okay, I'm not reactive and hold this. And then when it comes to you in your mess, if you don't just let it out in general and whatever it looks like, it could be crying, could be anger, whatever it is, and it is directed back at your partner in spite, resentment, avoidance, something like that, that's just going to make you judge yourself, ruin your self-worth, and make you feel like shit. How are you going to show up at work and lead a team when that's happening in person? Like, buddy, it's not going to, right? So the fulfillment part is being able to be open, to be able to give and receive love without any shame. And that's sort of the journey, which is fulfillment. And obviously being able to clearly articulate your vision, your goal, which is learned in all business, you just apply it to yourself. That is what's really going to help you when you've committed to that, start to feel fulfillment. Because when you can look back, you don't put yourself if you're comparing yourself into the future all the time, you put yourself in a gap. Oh, I haven't got, or I have not got this. And a lot of guys don't want to look back at their progress because they think, if I celebrate myself for my success, I'm going to get comfortable. I'm going to get satisfied. The opposite happens. When you celebrate yourself for your success, you literally say goodbye to an old version of yourself and you say hello now to a new upgraded version of yourself.
Yeah, makes sense.
Acknowledge, one, be like, wow, I did awesome with that. Hell yes, this is really good. Cool, I'm at peace with this goal that I've done. Great, I'm going to enjoy a weekend, just a weekend, right? A weekend, 3 days, I'm going to celebrate. The only time I'm going to drink is when I hit my milestone. You know what I mean? Hit that, have a good time. Like, drink to remember, not to forget. And once I've done that, what's next? So they get unbelievably bored. And they're like, now I've said goodbye to that thing. And I haven't just gotten like, oh, there was another thing. What's going to, you know what I mean? Said that. You got to attack the next goal with ferocity and ferociousness and relentless action taking so that you can have that fun again. Because there's nothing better than, like, it's like going to war. When all the guys would go to war and they'd go to the castle and everyone would, like, people would die around it, but they were the survivors and they'd take over and they got the new land. Let's celebrate. And bring that back. You know what I mean? Do it in your team. Do it for yourself. Do it with your family. I don't want to grow my kids up, with my children looking at me being like, man, all Dad ever did was worked. I want to go have dance parties and stuff for my kids. My best memories of my childhood were like dancing with my grandpa every time he'd come see us because he was always living abroad. And he'd come and have like these wicked dance parties and show us how to celebrate. I had the best fun ever. And I feel like we need that as adults. So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So your fulfillment, just to summarize, letting go of the shame you've got attached.
Yep.
Commitment, I totally agree with the commitment part. Intimacy, that's super interesting, specifically for guys. Having, I think maybe my understanding of intimacy would be connection. Would you say there's a difference, connection versus intimacy?
Yeah, I'd say there's a difference. I'd put it in here. There's a little bit of a difference. So you can have like a connection with someone and be like, oh, we have good connection. Intimacy, I think, adds another layer of depth.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, like we're having a really intimate moment with someone. Let's say it's with your partner and it's sexual and you guys are having sex and you allow the feelings of love so much to bubble up that you cry. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be bubbling crying, but it's like you're like, this whole experience and moment right now is so powerful and I'm so vulnerable at the moment, especially like depending on how the sex goes. And wow, this is a whole different feeling. It's also like intimacy is like we can have good connection and have like a strong connection. But when you're sitting across from someone and you tell them about this deep, dark secret that you had for a long period of time that almost ended your life, and then they tell you the exact same secret back, and you guys are looking at each other just in the eyes, no loss of contact. Wow. You can tell if someone, like, because I don't have good connection with people, but you can tell when someone's fearful of intimacy due to eye contact unconsciously. After our next level retreats, it is intense. The eye contact that happens after retreat with every single guy there. Intense. I mean, and like when as soon as you look at someone, your eyes lock and they don't move the whole time. At the start, there's a lot of eyes moving around at the retreat because of meeting new people, all these things, right? Eyes moving around. At the end, boom, it's just locked in. And you take that power away. Like that comes away. Every single person that has come to any of our retreats, when they meet up in real life, like after, or I meet up with them, there's this moment that we have, which is boom, we bro out, and it's just this immediate intimacy of eye contact. It happens, and you're like, whoa, we're here again. Like I haven't had this in a week. Like this is interesting.
That's awesome.
Maybe a good reminder. I'd say a little bit different. I say intimacy is just another depth.
Yeah, no, awesome. So yeah, fulfillment, I think is an important aspect of life for sure. But I think, that commitment one, personally for me, commitment, it's hard because you can have a goal or a dream really, but without the commitment to the time, it just stays in the mind.
Yeah,
so
commitment's scary, man.
Yeah. So let's dive into that. So like, what about the guys that aren't committing? You know, they're working a job potentially, but there's no commitment to the job. It's just to pay the bills. Well, what do I have here? What are the first steps a man can take to becoming better in that point? To commitment, to pursuing a life of greatness. Those guys that maybe they don't feel that.
Well, commitment's number one, man, and commitment's a skill. Straight up. We'll have some people that will come join our community, or get on one of our like bigger tiers, pay $4,000, $5,000 for something, never show up. Breaks our heart. Honestly, it breaks our heart. Because everyone that does it comes in, they finish phase 3 of their education, their lives changed. Right? It's just, we're 100% for that. Anyone who finishes that, done. And this person has a problem with committing. And most of the guys, which is challenging in men's work, is a lot of guys don't have this self-worth thing. I'll sacrifice everything for the family, sacrifice everything for my kids, I'll sacrifice everything for everyone in my business, I'll sacrifice everything everywhere, right? And then they forget to do things for themselves, which is it's a good thing that we have that skill and that ability. We have to learn to put ourselves first so that we can help everyone, and we forget that. And all the guys who have the businesses and all the things that go crashing down, or they get fat when they used to be fit, or they do cheat on someone, or they turn to drugs, alcohol, and they never thought they were the person that would do that, is because of their ability to be able to commit to something. And integrity plays a large role with that, right? And you get some people, when it comes to jobs, business, or whatever it is, sometimes they'll commit to one thing, they get attached to that, and they can't move. They can't move at all. And that just keeps them stagnant. And then other people can't commit to anything for a long period of time. Do you know why?
Fear?
Here's one. They didn't choose the right emotion to chase.
Right.
right? So one of the reasons that we do anything is to feel emotions. That's what it is. Reason we
To
want
change how you feel. Yeah.
right? They say, everyone says, buying theory. People buy on emotions, not on the thing, right? People, all our decisions come from emotion. Oh, I want to go and play laser tag with my friends because I'm going to feel fun. I'm going to feel pure joy when I'm there. I'm going to feel focused. Like, we played laser tag. It's a thing with my friends at the moment, playing laser tag to have the best time ever. We're like, why is this so much fun? Pure joy, like pure joy the whole day. Is it? Right? So, yeah. When someone chooses the right, if they're choosing, let's say, for example, they're an extroverted person and they're not very analytical, but they choose social media marketing through ads, which is a very analytical, looking at numbers, looking at data, decisions, it's not going to make them happy, right? So it's going to be so much harder to commit to that. When if they were extremely extroverted, they might do better like connecting people together and like facilitating, like selling houses or something, right? They're talking to people.
Just to play devil's advocate, what about the whole idea that just because you're not necessarily good at it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it? Like maybe there's some components in, say, social media marketing that later down the track there's skills, or maybe is it just, what about the skills that are just not fostered?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm extremely extroverted. But I'll sit down on Facebook ads and look at things all day, and I'll get consumed by the archetype of the magician, and that's all that I'll do. But the end goal is the reason that I chose to compete in a bodybuilding competition was I know that I was going to feel pride. I knew that I was going to feel magic. I knew that I was going to feel like rush of overwhelm, and what's the word for awe is the emotion that I was going to feel. And yes, I had to get analytical to do the little tasks. And yes, I had to get out my comfort zone. But whatever the goal is, that is the emotion to chase, regardless of all the little things that come in there. Because, you know, if you're committed, let's say, for example, you were we'll just use us, right? Personal development coach. You're committed to become a personal development coach and you want to speak on stage and do some amazing things, right? But you got to start on your own. And you know the emotion that you're going to feel when you get on stage, or you're going to feel magic, you're going to feel like pride, you're going to feel confident, you're going to feel charismatic, all of these emotions, elated, enthusiasm, or some emotions, if you like feeling those emotions, are going to come from that. But if you're starting off by yourself, then you're going to have to do the Facebook ads, and you're going to have to get analytical, and you're going to have to track your finances, you're going to have to do everything in the business, you wear every hat in the business in order to eventually get there, right? But because you've chosen an industry with a motivation that you like, that's what's going to get you. Same thing, you could be someone who likes the feeling of safety, but you hate computers, right? And you don't like the analytical stuff as much, but you like the feeling of financial safety and you like family. A trade is an amazing job to pick. There's a lot of money to be made in a trade, especially if you want to be a business owner. So much, I think it's awesome. And you're out hanging with the guys, you're out building some stuff with your hands, like in the sun, like so cool, pack your lunch, let's go on an adventure every single day. And yeah, it's going to get tough and we're going to fight through it. Come home, oh no, I've got to do some, invoicing and business work. Please, trainees, hire someone, a VA to do that online. Business people hack, like marketers hack. You can pay someone $8 an hour to do that for you. Oh yeah, if they're listening, right? Make their lives so much easier. But it's a really cool job to do. But if it's going to give them emotion of family, connection, it's going to make them feel safe with like finances and stuff. A great way to go down. So yeah, I would say that one of the biggest things is selecting that specific emotion, and whatever it is to get there, then it doesn't matter because you know that you're going to feel it. And when you feel it, it's like, oh, this is so good.
I think that's super important. Just thoughts coming to me when you're saying that is the importance of the vision. So like even superseding that is you mentioned, and maybe we can go into it, of choosing something based on how you want to feel. But like in my experience, a lot of guys aren't even aware of what they want. And they're like, do you know what I mean? Like it's like, hey, well, what do you want? Like there's like headbutting the wall trying to get a result. You know what I mean?
They don't know what they want because they don't even know how to feel, bro.
Yeah, true. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'm not even conscious of that. True. Fair enough.
Yeah. Everyone, look at it. It's like emotional intelligence is key these days, guys. Like emotional intelligence, get a fucking grip or fall behind for the love of God. So frustrating. For me, it's like it's cool to be able to understand like emotional shit. I mean, I think I'm cool as hell. I'm jacked to the nines. I've got a sexy ass girlfriend, and like I'm gonna marry this one. Like, hell yeah, she's the one. Fantastic. I have like the best friends ever. I have the most fun every time. Like I look at myself and I'm like, you are a cool dude, Corey. Like you're cool. You do cool shit. You can do backflips and stuff. You're confident as hell. It's cool. I don't care if that triggers anyone. If it triggers you, so like, you know what I mean. Then you need some of the medicine, right? But I think what was the point that I was getting to before I started like bragging on myself there?
Choosing emotions, emotional intelligence.
Yeah, right.
Feeling.
Yes, exactly. And I had to learn and study so much emotional intelligence to get there. And being aware of my emotions, understanding what I want to feel first has got me to get the things that I want.
Yeah, I totally agree.
The career that I want. So yeah, it's like, but a lot of guys like beforehand, if you say that I could feel in my early 20s, when I said beforehand, when I was getting cheated on, when I was drinking, when I was staying up late shit, I was watching the most amount of anime everyone's ever watched in their entire life, watched everything. Ever. Crazy. Every TV show, I was like hectic, like 4 a.m. And had a porn addiction, masturbation addiction, all that stuff. At that time, if you said that I could label an emotion, no. Numb to the nines. Absolutely. Was not aware. I was just avoiding every feeling under the sun. Because with emotional bandwidth comes we have to be able to feel the shit ones too. And I made a promise to myself after another big breakup in my 26-ish, 27-ish, had a big breakup. And it was this was actually mutual. And it was mutual. We were both just going different paths. And we were like, this kind of sucks, doesn't it? Like, yeah. And I said to myself after that, I am going to feel every single emotion to its highest capacity. When it comes to grief, when my dad dies and my mum dies, you best believe I'm going to feel that as hard as I can. When it comes to love, when it comes to my partner, I'm going to love her as hard as I can. When she's angry at me, she's frustrated, and she's yelling at me, sometimes I'll just turn around. Sometimes I will just turn around if I'm not getting triggered, and I'll just love her as hard as I can. And she just melts immediately, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." You know what I mean? It's like I want to feel proud of myself to the point where it's too much and I trigger other people. I want to be able to brag about myself and feel like, just feel powerful and dominant as fuck. I want to feel strong. I want to feel so strong. And I want to feel influential. I want to feel kind. And I want to feel empathetic. Like as much as I can. To as big as possible. No playing small. Let's play big. And when we make decisions from there and we get intelligent, what we want to feel, and we can feel around other people, it also increases intimacy and increases connection, and it helps you feel fulfillment. Because holy hell, if you're around someone who's feeling all those emotions, you get to feel them too. Right?
Yeah.
Well,
I think, that's again, the importance, even to the word feel. You still have to feel it first to understand it. So that's huge. Like, I know we've gone on a massive tangent, and we're probably coming up close to the end of it, but I know personally there's a lot of guys who, and even me, like the beginning of my journey in personal development is because I was on suicide watch, addicted to drugs, selling drugs, and I wasn't even aware that I wasn't feeling. And so I remember my first introduction was I think it was Brendan Bouchard. He goes, "What am I thinking?" And I was like, "What the fuck does that mean? What do you mean, what am I thinking? I don't know." It's like, I really thought about it, and I was like, "What are my thoughts?" And like, I reckon for 3 years, didn't even know what thoughts were, or like, and so that's where I got into NLP, because I was like, "What the fuck's going on in my brain? Like, what do you mean the thoughts?" Like, and then I started realizing your thoughts have like feelings and behaviors attached to them, and then, but what about the guys who can't feel that or aren't even aware of that? Like, is there something you do in standard that triggers that?
We do. I'm gonna tell that in a second, but first I'm gonna be brutally savage to any guy watching this, right? And if it triggers you, good, do something about it. Like I'm full on trigger guys here, right? Full on. There is no excuse of being a dumb cunt. No excuse. Now the reason I say that, fuck school. Right? When we grew up at school, every guy got made out to feel done, unless you were like really highly intelligent, you had a certain personality type for that, and that was like a very small percentage of men. The rest of the energetic guys, which is great, like keep crushing it, right? And a lot of those guys, their journey is actually getting tapped in with their body, less with their brain. But I would say majority of men, especially the energetic ones, who are more in their body, wanted to play, wanted to hang around, wanted to like hang out with the guys and stuff and do like, be around the tribe, beat boys, right? Got made to feel done. And they didn't like school. It happens so much in the set the standard community when guys come in and they're like, man, I stopped all of my growth when a teacher judged me. And then I stopped. I was a straight A student. This story's happened. I was a straight A student, and then in year 11, a teacher judged me hard on an English test, and then I flunked for the rest of it. Crazy, right? But there's no excuse. That was what happened then, and it's different now. And if we're not using our brain and we're not consistently learning and we're not studying, especially about ourselves, like Friedrich Nietzsche had a quote, become who you are. And the reason he had that quote was to learn who you are. And that how you become who you are is to learn about yourself. There's so much of our own selves that we're undiscovered. We'll know everything about a TV show and everything about one character or a superhero. A lot of guys, I love that superhero, this. And then it comes to themselves, blank. Oh, no, just do the same thing every day, man. You know what I mean? And but to live a fulfilled life, there's no excuse. You got to study and you got to look up, because the men that are and the ones that are studying themselves are just want to come up. Whether that be success, whether that be love, whether that be fulfillment, whether that just be happiness and peace. And the guys who aren't struggle and feel lost and feel depressed and get anxious and commit suicide, which breaks my heart. And it just comes down to reading and listening to a book, downloading Audible, listen to that shit. Listen to something fascinating that's nonfiction and can help you blow your mind. I saved a lot of like myself by reading Friedrich Nietzsche, reading the book the first time. And I don't know what the hell any of this means, but it hits me so deep. And I'm learning about myself more and more and more by reading the books. And I haven't stopped. And I feel so calm. And anyone who surrounds themselves around me becomes smarter, becomes more successful, and all those things, because the frequency that we have from going to the stuff helps. And I believe the methods and the books and the frameworks that are out there is the guide to help people really become more intelligent and think deeply. That's one thing I took away from uni. People are like, oh, look at uni degrees, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, look, I did business. And I enjoyed a lot of it, to be honest. Like, to be completely honest, I enjoyed a lot of it. Like the use in terms of producing cash, probably not that much. But I actually thoroughly enjoyed the learning, and it taught me how to think. And I remember saying to my dad, I said, Dad, I have this superpower. I can think like I can bench press. Every month I get stronger on a bench press. My strongest bench press was 170 kilos on a bench press. My ass come off the bench. So it wasn't like falling, but it still went up and down, right? Crazy. Yeah. And
that's fucking really good, by the way. Anyone listening?
Thank you.
That's crazy.
I just wanted to flex that out there. But the most important thing was, that's how I can think. So studying about yourself is the key, and it's the guide, and it's the thing that takes you from out of the Shire and into into Mordor, into Middle Earth, to go on an adventure with life. Because when you start learning things about yourself, you can start playing. Like, it's really interesting. Oh, do I want to make this decision and see how I go here? Do I want to make this? It was funny because when I had that, I'd get into some rooms every now and then, and I'd go, oh, I know a lot about myself, and I always have this feeling to try to be a leader. And then I get in the room and I go, I can't be bothered. I'm tired today. I don't want to have the energy to throw a lead. I don't have to try to prove myself. I do that in retreats and how I show up for people and the energy that we provide in those things. I don't have to prove anything in myself in some of these rooms, like whatsoever. Yeah. When usually they're like, prove, validate me. And yeah, it feels really good. And I think that everyone, when they do learn it and they commit to it, because it's a lifestyle, I think, put it in words, it is pure hygiene. You wake up, you brush your teeth every day. You should be going to the gym every day. You should be eating healthy, 80% of your diet minimum. And then for your mind hygiene, it's study. That's listening to audiobooks. No excuse now. Like, you can listen to audiobooks all day. I crush like 3 a week. You can read books. You can watch videos. You can talk to people. And everyone knows when they have a deep conversation with a friend where they've been drinking or it's just random, they have the best conversation. Oh, we have this deep conversation. We talk about this stuff. And they love it because they learn something about themselves. That's when you know you've had a deep conversation.
Oh, that's awesome. That literally leads me to my other question. You brought it up. It's almost perfect. What are the 3 most influential books that you've had? That you've read?
Oh, I think I got them here, right? Give me 2 seconds. Real influential ones. I write heaps of notes down on these. I'll grab them. Hold on.
Yeah, cool.
So, it's going to be hard for me to choose. But I will only share 3. None of these ones. Definitely Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Friedrich Nietzsche, Maharaji.
We both got it, my man.
Got that Friedrich Nietzsche wisdom. Yeah, crazy. The one recently is Facing Shame, Families in Recovery. This is all hardcore reading, by the way. If you're like first getting into this, don't recommend unless you're extremely disciplined, because Thus Spoke Zarathustra took me 10 months to finish.
I'm not even finished yet.
Full on.
I tried to read it before bed and I was like,
Good for these 2 as well. So, Man and His Symbols, by Carl Jung. Yeah. This is 10 times harder than Friedrich Nietzsche's book, to be honest. I get my employees to read it. I get my coaches to read it. I get anyone who's stuck in our community and they've come in, set the standard, and they've been in for like 10 months and they've been crushing it. Their goal is to finish this book, reading it, underlining it. You can see if we go through this, just like, I should have a lot of stuff sort of like underlined around everywhere. But that, and then I and John by Robert Bly. These are men's books. They're all in like psychology and stuff, but the self-awareness that I did a podcast with a guy called Scott Way, and he's a big time leadership trainer. His main thing is leadership is a direct reflection of self-awareness, and all of these books help you learn about yourself in a way which is just so insane. But there's modern psychology. This is the shit that's behind it. There's modern men's work. This is the shit that's behind it. There's modern body work and nervous system work and breath work stuff. This is the shit behind it. There's modern political systems and business thoughts and journeys of what we want to do with our life, and this is behind it. And I used each one of those. So I went Man and His Symbols, I and John, Facing Shame, and Friedrich Nietzsche, for those who are listening. And I said that intentionally with those books, because that's what is really behind the scenes. It's interesting because I like listening to influential leaders, Jordan Peterson or Mark or something like that, and I read the books that they recommend, because they're like, well, if you ever wanted to get really good at something like this, read this book. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm doing a book. I was listening to Robert Bly talk, and he recommended this book, and I listened to it, especially after I read like his book, and that all these just things like LinkedIn, and it literally feels like I'm on a treasure hunt, discovery of knowledge, and we find this pots of gold quite regularly.
Yeah, no, I feel the same. I feel like I'm searching for something that I don't know what I'm searching for, but I have like this drive to figure it out. I don't know what it is. It's like psychosis or something. I don't know. Early onset schizophrenia. I don't know. But
we'll find what the thing is and then attack the hell out of it. I hope you write a book.
Yeah, that's the goal. I'm actually in the middle of that. I'd love to. Cool. That's pretty much it, man. I think we've come to the end. We've covered a lot of the things I wanted to talk about, which is awesome. So I just want to thank you for that. Before we leave, is there any last words you wanted to leave for the audience listening that you think is going to positively change the trajectory of their life?
Well, definitely. There's one quote that I really like. It's, "He who cannot command himself must obey." Tattoo that on your forehead. It's very set the standard slogan. He who cannot command himself must obey, which is stepping into leadership. If you can't stay integral to your word, then you might as well follow someone else. Follow someone else who is integral to their word, so it stakes off to you, so eventually you can have that. The second thing I think is really cool is we put a lot of this, I'm just like plugging this right now because I think it's cool. We created a journal recently people can get, and it's cheap, and it's we put like every single question that we use in our Set the Standard community after working with 300 people in this journal. Like it's like 75 days or 75 questions, and link it with 75 hard. And then on the back end of that, it has like like you basically review your day with the right things, plus putting an emotion in there, so you start getting clear on your emotions. It's actually so sick. I'm going to like journal was absolutely fantastic. So that's one thing that I think is really cool. If you want to tiptoe into some personal development, let us know your address. I can send you one if you want to have one, Corey, my bro. That'd be sick.
Sweet.
We do webinars every 2 or 3 weeks as well. If someone wants to like learn any of this, like feel free to come along yourself. Like I teach some pretty hardcore stuff, and it's just like one presentation that we do. And it's pretty hardcore, to be honest, which is really cool. And I also have a podcast if people want to come in and listen. It's called the Corey Boutwell podcast, and I just dropped 2 podcasts, 2 of them on this book. So if you don't want to listen and you want to go deep, I did part 1 and part 2 in Amanda Symbols. Then I backed it up with a hero's journey story of June. I talked about the movie, like 1 and 2. So if you've seen June 1 and 2, you want to hear about the shit behind the scenes and why it relates and why it makes you feel these emotions. I go hard on that podcast too. So I think
I'll give it a listen myself. That's great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, yeah.
Sweet, man. Thank you so much. And where can everyone find you?
Yeah, Corey Boutwell. So COREYBOUTWELL. I'm most active on Instagram. Everywhere else we just post. So you can find us on like pretty much all platforms. I just post on those. I have a website, CoreyBoutwell.com. We've got blogs and a whole bunch of cool stuff on there. We've got like 190 blogs, something, which is really cool. A lot of those are from podcasts though. And yeah, in my community. So I don't really, like, I'm kind of hard to get a hold of personally, or to message or to have a conversation with. If you're not in our webinar, you're not in my community. That's about it. We're like doing some real fun stuff and running for some epic shit. So yeah, our retreat to next level. If anyone wants to come around to any of the retreats, I'd love for you to come to one, Corey, if you want to do some like hardcore shit. I recommend every coach to come to one of ours, especially if they're studying NLP or something, because it's some hardcore embodiment practices. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's a good idea. I appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks for the amazing conversation, and hopefully have another one in the future. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Peace.
See you, mate.